Imagine waking up next to the man you love, the one who held you through your darkest nights, who promised to protect you, who made you believe in happiness again. Now, imagine finding out that same man was the reason your world was shattered in the first place. The man who comforted you through your grief is the one who caused it. For 3 years, she lived in what she thought was a second chance at love. She had buried the pain of losing her first husband, convinced that the past was behind her. And then, one night, a single moment changed everything. What would you do if you realized the man who made you a widow is the love of your life? How did she uncover the truth? And when she did, what choice did she make? His name was Daniel Carter. 36 years old. A devoted husband, a loving father, and a man who never turned his back on those in need. Friends described him as the kind of person who would give the shirt off his back. He worked as a contractor, skilled with his hands, always building something, whether it was a new home for a client or a treehouse for his daughter. To the world, he was a man with a future. To his wife, he was everything. Until one cold November night, when everything changed. November 14th, 3 years ago. Daniel left work late. He stopped for gas, exchanged a quick text with his wife, "Be home soon, love you," and then he was gone. The details of what happened next were murky at best. His body was found in an abandoned lot on the outskirts of town, slumped over the wheel of his truck. A single gunshot wound to the head. His wallet was missing, but his wedding ring was still on his finger. The police considered it a robbery, but something didn't feel right. No witnesses. No surveillance footage. No clear suspects. The case went cold faster than his body did in the autumn air. And for his wife, Emily, the world stopped turning. Emily Carter was 34 when she became a widow. The morning after Daniel's death, she sat on their bedroom floor, clutching his pillow, inhaling the scent of a man who would never walk through their front door again. Grief consumed her. Days blurred together. Nights stretched on endlessly. Friends tried to comfort her, but what words could ever be enough? She spent months drowning in unanswered questions. Who did this? Why? And perhaps worst of all, could it have been someone they knew? Emily never thought she'd love again. She never wanted to. But time does something to people. It softens the sharp edges of pain. It doesn't erase the past, but it makes room for something new. And then, 1 year later, she met him. Mark Reynolds walked into Emily's life like he had always belonged there. Their first conversation wasn't special, just two strangers making small talk in a grocery store. But something about him made her smile in a way she hadn't in a long time. He was kind. Understanding. He never pushed, never rushed her healing. He simply existed beside her, patient and unwavering. He, too, had known loss. He spoke of a past love, a relationship that ended in heartbreak. He understood grief, or so he said. And in that understanding, Emily found solace. The walls she had built around her heart began to crumble, brick by brick, until one day, she let him in. Their love story was simple. A quiet romance. Walks in the park. Late-night conversations. Slow dances in the kitchen when they thought no one was watching. For the first time since Daniel's death, Emily felt hope. They married after 2 years of knowing each other. He fit into her world effortlessly, stepping into the role of a devoted husband. He laughed with her daughter, helped around the house, made her believe that maybe, just maybe, life had given her a second chance. But love has a way of blinding us. We see what we want to see. We ignore the details that don't make sense. And Emily, desperate to hold on to the happiness she had found, didn't question the little things. The way he changed the subject when she spoke about Daniel. The way he stiffened at certain places in town. The nights he seemed lost in thought, staring at nothing, as if haunted by something she couldn't see. And then, one night, she found it. The thing that made it all unravel. The moment that turned her love story into a waking nightmare. From the moment Daniel Carter was found dead, the police knew they had little to work with. A single gunshot wound. No shell casings. No security footage. No witnesses who saw anything more than the distant flash of headlights disappearing into the night. It had all the markings of a professional hit: quick, clean, and devastatingly efficient. Detectives combed through Daniel's life, searching for enemies, debts, or conflicts that could explain his murder. Was it a robbery gone wrong? A personal vendetta? A crime of passion? But every lead ended the same way: nowhere. His wallet was gone, suggesting a mugging, but then why leave the ring? Why choose an abandoned lot, a place so perfectly isolated that no one would hear the shot? Months passed. The case slipped out of the headlines, buried beneath newer tragedies. Eventually, even the detectives stopped believing they'd find an answer. And Daniel's name became just another cold case file collecting dust in the back of a police station. But time has a way of bringing the truth to the surface. And for Emily, that truth was waiting, closer than she ever imagined. At first, it was nothing. A passing remark. A conversation that left her uneasy but not enough to question it. Then, the moments began to stack up. It was the way Mark tensed whenever Daniel's name was mentioned. The way he changed the subject when Emily reminisced about the past. How his hands gripped the steering wheel just a little too tightly when they passed the gas station where Daniel was last seen alive. Little things. Easy to dismiss. Easy to explain away. Until one evening, when they were watching the news, a reporter mentioned a recent unsolved murder. A case with eerie similarities to Daniel's. Emily barely reacted. But Mark, he exhaled a little too sharply. His jaw tightened just enough to be noticeable. And then he said something that made her skin crawl. Some cases are better left unsolved. Emily laughed it off at the time. Maybe he was just being cynical. Maybe he didn't mean anything by it. But deep down, a tiny crack had formed in the foundation of her trust. And once a crack appears, it only spreads. Then there were the nightmares. Nights where Mark thrashed in his sleep, mumbling words she couldn't quite make out. He woke up drenched in sweat, his breathing heavy. Emily would ask if he was okay, and he'd shake his head, forcing a smile that didn't reach his eyes. Just a bad dream, he'd say. But why, she wondered, did his bad dreams always seem to come after the rare times she visited Daniel's grave? And then, there was the gun. Mark never talked about owning a gun. As far as Emily knew, he wasn't the type. But one afternoon, while cleaning out the attic, she found it, an old shoebox tucked away in the corner, covered in dust. Inside, a handgun. The metal was cold in her hands, the weight unfamiliar. She ran her fingers along the surface, her heart pounding. And then, she saw the inscription. D.C. Daniel Carter. It could have been a coincidence. It had to be a coincidence. But something inside her told her it wasn't. She put the gun back, closed the box, and walked out of the attic with shaking hands. That night, she laid beside Mark in bed, staring at the ceiling, wondering if she was losing her mind, or if she had just uncovered something she was never meant to know. Doubt is a dangerous thing. It starts as a whisper, a fleeting thought. But once it takes hold, it doesn't let go. Emily tried to push it away, tried to tell herself she was being paranoid. But then, something happened that made ignoring it impossible. It was a simple mistake. A conversation that should have meant nothing. But sometimes, the most damning truths slip out in the most ordinary moments. They were driving home from dinner when Mark mentioned a shortcut, a back road Emily had never taken before. He spoke casually, but then he said something strange. I used to take this road all the time, back when I was working near the old industrial lot. The old industrial lot. The place where Daniel's body was found. I didn't know you worked over here, she said, her pulse quickening. Mark hesitated. Just for a second. But it was long enough. Oh, I didn't. I mean, not really. Just passed through sometimes. But Emily wasn't listening anymore. She was thinking back to the police reports. To the timeline. To the fact that 3 years ago, on the night Daniel was murdered, Mark had no alibi. And just like that, she knew. The man she had built a new life with was the same man who had destroyed the one before it. For weeks, Emily couldn't shake the feeling that something was horribly wrong. Every glance, every word, every touch from Mark felt different now, tainted. She told herself she was imagining things, that she was being irrational. But deep inside she knew the truth. And the truth was waiting for her, inside a single manila folder. She never thought she'd see it again. Daniel's murder. The police reports, the forensic analysis, the crime scene photos, images she had forced herself to forget. But she needed to see it now. Needed to find something, anything, that could confirm her worst fear. A statement buried deep in the report. Something she had overlooked before. A witness, an elderly man who lived in a rundown house near the industrial lot. He had given a vague description of a man he saw that night. Tall. Broad shoulders. A slight limp. And a scar, one that ran down the left side of his neck, just above the collarbone. Mark had a scar there. He told her it was from an old motorcycle accident. A story she never questioned. Until now. She sat there, staring at the words on the page, her hands gripping the file so tightly that the paper crumpled. It wasn't just the scar. It was everything. The way he reacted when she mentioned Daniel. The way he avoided certain places. The gun in the attic. The back road he claimed to know too well. Every moment she had dismissed, every tiny red flag, suddenly it all made sense. The man she loved, the man she trusted with her heart, was the reason Daniel never came home that night. Mark's unease every time Daniel's name was mentioned. The way he changed the subject whenever she talked about the case. The nightmares. The restless nights. The whispers in his sleep. The casual slip-ups, the little mistakes, the moments she had ignored. And finally, the scar. Emily felt like she couldn't breathe. The walls of their home, the place where she had rebuilt her life, were closing in on her. She had to get out. Had to get away from him. Had to think. But she couldn't just run. Not yet. She needed to be sure. Mark, we need to talk. What's wrong? He asks, his voice carefully controlled. She doesn't answer. Instead, she picks up the case file, flipping to the page with the witness statement. She watches him closely as she reads the description aloud. Where did you get that? He asks, his voice lower now. There's no confusion in his tone. No anger at being accused. Just something else. Something darker. Tell me the truth, Mark. You don't want the truth, Emily. You wouldn't understand why I did it. Mark doesn't deny it. He doesn't try to explain it away. Instead, he leans back in his chair, studying her, as if waiting to see what she'll do next. You want to hear it, don't you? He says, tilting his head. You want to know why. Emily is frozen. Every part of her screaming to run. But she can't. Not yet. She needs to hear it. Needs to know. And so, in a voice barely above a whisper, she asks, why? Because he wasn't supposed to have you. Daniel, he continues, was in the way. He didn't deserve you. I did. I knew it from the first moment I saw you. I waited. I watched. And when the time was right, I took what should have been mine. The room is suffocating now. The horror settling into her bones. You murdered my husband, because you wanted me? Mark nods. And I got you, didn't I? Silence. The walls closing in. And then, a single thought pierces through the terror. She needed to get out. Now. Emily didn't sleep that night. She couldn't. She lay there, staring at the ceiling, Mark's words echoing in her head. I waited. I watched. And when the time was right, I took what should have been mine. The man she had built a life with. The man she had trusted. The man she had loved, had murdered her husband, and for 3 years she had unknowingly let him into her heart, her home, her bed. The thought made her physically sick. By sunrise, detectives were already poring over the evidence she had brought them. The case had long since gone cold, but now they had something they never had before. A witness. a motive, and a name. Mark was still asleep when they arrived. They found him in the same bed where Emily had left him. The knock on the door startled him awake, but by the time he stumbled to his feet, it was too late. Gun barrels. Flashlights. The sound of his name being called. Mark Evans, step outside with your hands where we can see them. For a man who had hidden his crime for years, he wasn't fighting it now. No protests. No resistance. Just a single glance at Emily, standing behind the police line, and a smirk that sent ice through her veins. I told you, he murmured as they cuffed him. You wouldn't understand. The courtroom was packed. Journalists. Spectators. Friends and family of both Daniel and Emily. All waiting to hear how a man could live a lie for 3 years, and what justice would look like. Emily took the stand. She spoke through tears. She told the jury about the man she had fallen in love with, about the discovery that shattered her world, and about the moment she looked into his eyes and realized she had been sleeping beside a killer. The verdict came swiftly. We, the jury, find the defendant guilty of first-degree murder. Imagine discovering that the person you trust most, the person you love, is the very one who destroyed your past. What would you do? If you were in Emily's shoes, would you have noticed the signs sooner? Do you think she had suspicions but ignored them? And do you believe true justice was served? If this case shocked you, make sure to subscribe for more true crime stories from this channel. Every crime has a final truth, and we uncover them all. Like this video if you believe justice was served, and let us know your thoughts in the comments.